Hello, and welcome to another episode of Madam Suzanne, episode 38. Today, I'm going to talk to you about how I chose the perfect INCALL location and the lessons I learned along the way. So, in Las Vegas, I did not have any INCALL locations because we only went to outcalls to the strip. Now, once I decided to operate in Orange County, California, I knew that 99% of my business was going to be coming from people that lived in the area and that we needed a place to conduct our business at. So, in order for me to make it really easy and convenient for our prospective clients, I had to acquire INCALL locations. So the first thing I did was, once I decided to operate in the area, I had to choose the perfect location as far as physical location for the business. And the way I did that is I figured out where most people lived and where most people worked that fit into my target market, which was my target client. And I wanted to make sure that no matter where they lived or worked around that area, which was the epicenter of the business world in Orange County, California, I wanted to be right there within 5 to 10 miles max of my clients were already. So convenience was the number one priority. And I also wanted to make sure that people that traveled a lot and people that came into town, just in case I had some of that business, I wanted to make sure I was not too far away from the airport. In Orange County, the main airport is John Wayne, which was also in Irvine. So everything fit perfect to have the location right around the 405 and Jamboree exit. It was 8 minutes away from Newport Beach and Newport Coast, where most of my clients lived, the upscale clients that I was looking for, the millionaires and billionaires. And it was also only 5 minutes away from John Wayne Airport. I was literally a stone throw away from the freeway, so that gave access to everyone. So all in all, it was a perfect place to do business. So once I decided on the actual physical geographical location, then I moved on to the second step, which is which complex I'm going to be at. Now, since I knew I'm going to end up with multiple locations because my goal was 7 figures within 5 years. So in order for me to obtain that kind of money, I knew I'm going to have separate locations. That was just simple math. So for me, being an operator of a multiple people agency, I had to make sure I had, multiple locations. So, of course, I always want to start small and let the business dictate how many locations I end up with. But aside from that, I wanted to make sure that the place I acquired was, 1, in the right area, 2, in the right complex. And what I mean by that is, I learned that not all complexes are good. For example, the first complex I acquired an apartment in was the Camdens. And the problem with the Camdens was, that I found out later, which I'm sharing the information with you now, is that there was so many escorts already working out of that complex. And what ended up happening was there was so much heat already on the complex that the management were aware and the Irvine Police Department was aware. So they were already conducting sting operations out of that complex. Now, that would not have been good for me or my operation. So I learned from that experience. And what I learned is to do some homework online to make sure, and it's just the information is online usually when they have arrests and stuff in certain complexes. In that area, newspaper, online, whatever, they always talk about it and broadcast it. So I learned to do my homework first and make sure that the complex I choose was not already on the flag of or the radar of the local police department. So that's as far as the complex. I wanted to make sure it's upscale because the target client I was going after were upscale. So I wanted to make sure that they're comfortable, especially I'm charging 500 an hour and up. Two, I wanted to make sure that the actual location of the apartment was convenient for the client to find and for me to get him there. Since I operated in the middle of every single transaction between the client and the escort, I was involved in every single client getting to that particular location he was going to for the escort he was seeing for that appointment at that day. So I had to make sure, to make my life easier, that the actual apartment or condo or whatever was strategically located where it's close to access doors, close to where the parking is, close to the garage. And also, I wanted to make sure that it's in a safe spot as far as away from prying eyes, right? Because you have neighbors and we operate from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. I always wanted to make sure that what type of neighbors do I have, right? So I did my research, I did my homework, and I studied the complex. And I wanted to make sure that it wasn't a very small complex where everybody could see everything that's going on. I wanted to get lost in the shuffle, if you will. And the way I did that was I chose complexes that had many, many apartments or condos. For example, Park Place had 5 buildings and 1,000 apartments. You can easily get lost in that kind of volume, right? So that was very important, something I learned along the way, right? So access was important. Having a simple parking situation was important, which was free and plentiful as far as visitors parking, because I don't want anybody to get towed, then it's going to be a problem. It's going to be an issue, right? I didn't want any type of issue. Safety is number one. So I was always thinking about everything. Do they have enough parking for that time between 11 and 7 where I operated? Are most people, like in Park Place, are most people there at home during those times, or are they gone? Well, there was a lot of students in that complex, especially from overseas, that could afford it because it was very expensive. It was about $2,500 a month for a 600 to 800 square foot apartment. So that's pretty expensive back in 2014, right? Even now. I'm sure now they're even more. So most of these guys didn't care because they're young. They're just college students, and most of them were foreign, so they didn't know how the system worked. And most of them were out to school or out hanging around and having fun. So that was perfect for what I was trying to do at that time. So I wanted to limit the prying eyes, limit someone picking up the phone and calling the cops, and I wanted to limit easy detection by other tenants by being in a small complex. So I wanted to make sure all those were covered. Another thing I needed to make sure of is that the apartment location I picked didn't have someone directly across from them from where the windows looked out. So even though I kept the shades drawn down, I kept them closed, I wanted to make sure that whoever is in front of those windows cannot just look and see what the hell was going on, right? So I chose the location very, very, very carefully and very wisely. So no one can just peer out and if in case the blind was mistakenly open or whatever in a living room or whatever, that they could, you know, basically look out the action, right? So that was also important. So that's pretty much what I thought about when I looked for in a perfect location for my operation. Another important factor also was, before I forget, is that I wanted to make sure that when I went to speak to the management of the place, of the complex, that they were cool, they were younger, they were hip, they weren't like really, really strict. You can always tell if they're really strict, if they're really, anal, excuse my French, about everything. So that was important because I always went and scouted the place because I didn't get any of the complexes apartments in my name. I always went as a scout, as if someone that is interested in renting, but I never actually rented them, right? I just scoped them out, figured out locations. Then I gave the instructions to the escort I was hiring or already working with me, which one that we wanted in which building. And one other thing that was very important is because I was working with multiple locations, I made sure that I did not get more than 4 or 5 total apartments or condos in one location. And I only did that in big complexes like the Park Place apartment homes. They had 1,000, so I ended up with 5, and they were on the opposite ends. If you watch my documentary, you'll see it was all the way on the opposite end. So I had 2 in one side and 3 way on the other side of the complex, right? So one building and one all the way on the end of the other building. So that made sure that I didn't have a lot of traffic when I was working from 11 to 7. We end up at 5 apartments. We're talking about 50 or so appointments a day. So I didn't want anyone seeing guys going in and out and out and out in the same condensed area. So I wanted to break it up. And this is why I broke up the apartments in different locations within the complex. That was also very, very important and something I learned, right? To not go overboard with different locations in the same complex. And then another thing I did besides the location is I wanted to change that location every 6 months or a year, depending on what kind of lease we signed. So I never wanted to go over a 1-year period, and that was really, really important because I always wanted to switch it up, just in case someone paid attention, somebody called the police, there was somebody watching. I wanted to cut that cord. So I always wanted to make sure no more than 6 months to a year, and I was out because there was a lot of complexes in the area I was interested in. And I also did this too, that because I operated almost 5 years. So one of the first complexes I used, I ended up coming back later on and using them again for like 1 or 2 locations if I knew they were already cool because I already been there before. So it was really easy for me to go back 2 or 3 years later for another 6 months or whatever if I needed to do that. But in that area, 405 in Jamboree, there were so many complexes. I could have worked for 20 years and changed complexes every year, and I would have never, worked in all of them. And a lot of them were upscale. So it was a perfect location for OC Fund, the agency I operated out of Orange County, California, between 2012 and 2017. So that's pretty much it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got a lot of information out of it. I know if you were curious about it, and that's how I did it. Thank you so much for watching. Please like the video if you did. Hit that gray bell to be notified the next time I do a video. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so this month, February 2021. There's a special I'm running for a free audio and ebook of my first best-selling book, Madam Suzanne. You get it for free if you subscribed and stayed as a subscriber on my channel. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay happy. And if you haven't found your happiness, please look within. You can find it. It's in there. Thank you, and I will see you soon.